Japan's adult obesity rate sits at around 5%. In the United States, it's near 40. That's not a small gap. It's close to 8 times the difference between two wealthy, modern, developed countries with equal access to fast food, sugar, and cars, sitting on opposite ends of a scale that size doesn't usually allow. And here's the detail that rules out the easiest explanation, the one everyone reaches for first. When Japanese people emigrate and live in Western countries,
Ooh, this looks good. Perfect for dinner tonight.
eating the food available to them there, their obesity rates climb to match the country they moved to, sometimes within a single generation. Same genes, same starting biology, different result, entirely dependent on where they happen to be standing. Which means the answer was never in the DNA. It's somewhere else entirely. Somewhere most explanations skip right past. So today, 9 psychological habits behind that gap, habits that have almost nothing to do with dieting, willpower, or restriction, 3 words that barely show up anywhere in this list. And number 9 is the real mechanism underneath all the other 8, the one thing that makes every habit before it actually stick without anyone having to try particularly hard or even notice they're doing it at all. Stay for that one, because once you see it, you won't be able to look at the first 8 the same way again. Number 1, the 80% rule. There's a centuries-old teaching, especially strong in Okinawa, home to some of the longest-lived people on Earth, called Hara Hachi Bu. Eat until you're about 80% full, not stuffed, not finished, just satisfied. It sounds like a diet rule. It isn't one, and that distinction matters more than it sounds like it should. A diet rule tells you what you're not allowed to have. Hara Hachi Bu doesn't touch what's on the plate at all. It only asks you to notice one moment, partway through a meal, that most people never pause at. It's a stopping cue, a small mental checkpoint inserted at a point most eating happens completely on autopilot. Nobody following it is counting calories or measuring portions. They're just asking one quiet question before their chopsticks go back down for another bite. A question so small it barely feels like a decision at all, which is exactly why it survives. Number 2, the 20-minute lag nobody accounts for. Your stomach doesn't send a full signal to your brain instantly the moment you've eaten enough. There's a real measurable delay between the point where your body has actually had sufficient food and the point where that fact registers as a feeling, which means eating quickly makes it almost mathematically likely you'll overshoot before the signal even arrives. Finishing a plate your body didn't need 10 minutes before your brain found out. Traditional Japanese meals build in a structural defense against this timing gap without anyone naming it as a defense at all. Chopsticks physically slow the mechanics of eating compared to a fork loading up faster, larger bites in quick succession. Smaller portions per bite, more frequent pauses to pick up rice, more dishes to move between. By the time a meal built this way is finished, the 20-minute signal has usually caught up with the plate instead of arriving long after the plate's already empty and a second helping's already gone too. Number 3, nobody has to decide what to eat because the decision was made generations ago. A traditional Japanese meal format called Ichiju Sansai, 1 soup, 3 dishes, plus rice, isn't a recipe you look up. It's a template sitting quietly in the background of nearly every meal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner all fit roughly the same shape. A protein, a couple of vegetable dishes, a soup, rice, filled in differently every day, but structurally identical. The way a sentence stays a sentence no matter which words go in it. This matters more than it sounds like it should, because every decision you make about food during the day draws from the same limited mental account. The same pool of attention that gets thinner the more times you dip into it. A structure that answers, "What's on the plate?" before you've even opened the fridge, quietly removes dozens of tiny decisions a week. Decisions that, left open and unanswered, tend to get settled by whatever's fastest, closest, and loudest in the moment, which is rarely the vegetable dish. 3 down, 6 to go, and the next one explains something that sounds almost too simple to matter until you see the actual psychology behind it. Number 4, small plates create the psychology of abundance. Japanese meals are almost never one big plate holding everything at once. There's several small dishes arranged together across the table, which does something genuinely interesting to perception. something researchers studying plate design have documented directly. A table with 5 small dishes reads as more
Glad you
generous,
like it.
more of an
Everything is
occasion,
perfect.
more like a real
This.
meal than one large plate holding the exact same total amount of food, even when a kitchen scale would show the two are identical down to the gram. You get the feeling of a full table, the visual sense of abundance your brain is actually responding to, without the quantity that would normally be required to produce that feeling on a single crowded plate. The stomach isn't the only thing being fed here. The eyes are being fed first, and they're surprisingly easy to satisfy. Number 5. This gets taught before it ever becomes a decision at all. Japanese schools include something called shokiku, food education, as a formal, ongoing part of a child's schooling, not a single health class lecture buried in a semester, but a running thread through years of education. Kids learn to cook basic dishes, to understand what balance on a plate actually looks like, to serve school lunch to their own classmates on a rotating basis, standing at the front of the room ladling soup instead of just receiving a tray from someone else. By the time food choices become genuinely optional, in the teenage and adult years when nobody's structuring meals for you anymore, the default instinct is already built in, already familiar, not something a person has to newly discover at 25 while standing in a grocery aisle trying to lose 10 pounds for the first time. Number 6, movement is default, not scheduled onto a calendar. Most trips inside a Japanese city involve walking to a train station, walking through it, standing on a platform, walking again on the other end, often stacked on top of each other 3 or 4 times in a single day, without anyone labeling a single minute of it as exercise or feeling like they earned a reward for doing it. This is the opposite of the gym model, where movement has to be scheduled, motivated, defended against every excuse a tired or busy day can produce, and abandoned the moment life gets in the way for 2 weeks straight. When walking is just how you get to work, it survives bad weeks, low motivation, rainy mornings, and packed schedules because it was never optional to begin with. Never a decision sitting on a to-do list waiting to be skipped. 6 down, 3 to go, and this next one is the one most people actively misread when they first hear about it. Number 7. Snacking has a shape instead of no shape at all. Convenience stores in Japan, called konbini, are everywhere and used constantly, dozens of times a week by most people. But what typically gets grabbed tends to sit closer to a small rice ball or a piece of seasonal fruit than a family-sized bag of chips positioned deliberately at eye level because it's the easiest, most reachable thing on the shelf. Eating in Japan tends to happen at defined points across the day rather than as continuous, low-level grazing that never quite registers in memory as a full meal. The kind of eating that adds up fast precisely because none of it felt like it counted. A habit doesn't have to be a strict rule against snacking to actually work. It just has to make the easy, reachable option the reasonable one. So reaching for it doesn't require a fight. Number 8. The default drink isn't sugar, it's tea. Green tea, sencha or matcha, is the ordinary, everywhere beverage in Japan. The one poured automatically at a meal, a
Thank you.
business meeting,
Smells
a
wonderful.
break at
To
work,
us.
the way water might be offered somewhere else without a second thought. This isn't a health choice being consciously made at every single opportunity throughout the day, weighed and decided fresh each time. It's simply what a drink defaults to when nobody's actively choosing otherwise.
That's good.
And that distinction matters enormously, because a default requires zero willpower to select. A better option only wins consistently, day after day, year after year, when it's the path of least resistance, the thing that happens automatically, not the disciplined choice someone has to keep actively making against an easier alternative sitting right next to it. Now, number 9, the real mechanism underneath the other 8, the thing I promised you at the start. None of these habits survive because the people practicing them have more self-control than anyone else on earth. They survive because almost none of them require a decision in the moment at all. Hara Hachi Bu isn't a rule you have to remember to enforce at every single meal for the rest of your life. It's a cue built directly into how a meal is structured and paced from the first bite. Ichiju Sansai isn't a diet plan you're following, it's just what dinner means. So there's no decision left to make once the format itself has already decided for you. Walking to the station isn't a workout you schedule around a busy week. It's just how you get anywhere at all. Every single habit on this list works precisely because it was engineered out of the category of things I have to consciously choose to do and into the category of things that just happen by default, without a fight. This is the actual difference between Japan's food environment and a typical Western one. And it's also exactly why the emigration data makes so much sense once you see it this way. Move a Japanese person into an environment where the defaults flip entirely, where the biggest bag of chips is at eye level instead of the fruit, where soda is the automatic pour instead of tea, where driving replaces walking to a station, and the decisions that used to be completely invisible suddenly become decisions again. Dozens of them a day, every day, indefinitely. And willpower, as anyone who's tried to run on it for more than a few weeks already knows, is a genuinely terrible long-term strategy for winning dozens of small decisions every single day for years on end. It wasn't ever really a contest between disciplined people and undisciplined ones. It was a contest between an environment that removed the decision and one that kept forcing it, meal after meal, day after day. So if you take one thing from this video, it's not eat less and it's not walk more, even though both of those things happen to be true here. It's this. Look at one default in your own routine this week, not a rule you have to enforce starting tomorrow. Just a single default, quietly, without announcing it to anyone. What's the easiest drink to grab without thinking? What's the plate size you reach for on autopilot? What's the first thing visible the moment you open the pantry door? And gently change what that one default is. Nothing more dramatic than that. Not the discipline, the default. Discipline runs out, usually faster than anyone expects it to. Defaults don't, because you never have to choose them again once they're actually set. Comment default and tell me which of these 9 actually surprised you the most, and share this with someone who's tried every diet except the one thing that would have actually worked, changing what's easiest to reach for in the first place.